talked about was growth, putting ourselves in a growth environment. And we talked about that for things to live, certain plants to live, they have to be in a specific environment. Same thing with leaders, right? We got to be in specific environments for us to grow in. And so today we're talking about the most boring key to success. And we're just kind of thinking about that. What would you guys say are some requirements for somebody to be successful? If somebody's going to be successful, like, what would you tell them? Like, hey, you may need to do this, you may need to do that. What advice would you give to somebody that was asking, hey, how do you be successful? What would you guys say?
It's up to your goal, no matter what happens, and be consistent and be hardworking.
Consistent and hardworking. I like it. Yeah. What else kind of comes to mind for you guys? In any endeavor, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. If you want to be successful, what do you feel like are some keys to success?
Being willing to be vulnerable with it.
Ooh, that's
putting your
pretty
whole
good.
heart into it.
Wow. Ooh, that's good right there, man. That's good. You teeing me up. I almost want to go down a teaching route right there. That's good, right? It's true. And I think you guys know that, right? Like, if you give a half-hearted effort, half-hearted, all in, that's only going to get you so far. Yeah, that's good. Anything else as you think about success?
I think as far as, for on consistency, like you're saying, is that this the one of the most boring key points per se, but I think is one of the most important, consistency. That it's no different than, starting a workout, routine, or starting any kind of anything. You can, if you started off 100% for the first 2 days, and on the third one you're already at 50, then you might as well not never start. So and for us, that's the main thing. And as far as me goes, with the guys, that's always got to be, however we come at it with any new program, and a new anything that we need the guys to fill out or to do. It's just we have to keep consistent. The consistency has to be there, and it leads to everything else. So.
Yeah, I like all of that you guys are saying, and honestly, if we went around, we could pick out some other keys. But if I could pinpoint just one thing that has led to any, if you would call anything I've done, any success that I've ever had, this topic that we're talking about today. In fact, you will find every single successful person in any field, it doesn't matter what it is, has the same thing in common. And before I share it, I wanted to ask you guys, I'm going to pull this up right here. I got my backpack over there, all right, Joseph, right over there. I got a backpack, all right. And let's say you guys in my backpack has got $3 million, $3 million. But I give you a choice. You can have that 3 million right now, or I've got this penny that doubles itself every day for 31 days, but you got to wait the 31 days. How many of you going to go with the 3 million right now? Yeah, okay, Natalie said I can go buy me some Bitcoin. I can get some crypto. I can do something with that. No. Anybody else say, I'll take that 3 million. Okay, everybody's going to wait on the penny. Who says the penny? I'm going to go with that penny. Okay, all right. So Natalie, all these people who just chose a penny, I mean, I just want you to know on day five, I don't know how much you got left of your 3 million, but they've only got 16 cents. All right, they've only got 16 cents. On day 10, I mean, we're a week and a half out. They're $5.12. $5. On day 20, they just now really hitting quadruple digits. It's $5,242.88. But on day 31, $10,737,418.23. $10.7 million. That's wild, isn't it? $10.7 million. The compounding power of consistency. The most boring key to success, consistency. That's boring right there, right? It's boring. You know, if somebody were to come up to you and say, you know what, Colin, you know what the most impressive thing about you is? You consistent. He's like, really? That's all you got? I'm consistent. I mean, that's boring, right? You want something more flashy than that. I do too. But consistency, it's boring. It's not sexy at all. But here's the deal. Motivation. Hey, it can get you going, but it's discipline that keeps you going. And in fact, discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and follow through on it. That's what discipline is. It's saying, hey, I'm gonna set my alarm clock at 6 a.m. I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna go work out, or 4:30, whatever it is for you. And whenever the alarm clock goes off, I get up and do it. That's what discipline is. The ability to give myself a command and I follow through on that command. It's easy to let ourselves down though, right? Because I like to judge you based off of what you did, but I like to judge myself on what I intended to do, my intentions. I intended to do that, right? I mean, I intended to get up at 5 in the morning and go work out, right? Discipline is the ability to give ourselves a command and follow through with it. Being persistent, it will help you get it. Being consistent will help you keep it. Every path, every single one of them requires consistency. Most people are not successful in their business or their role or in their organization, not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, not because they lack support, not because they lack all of that, but because they don't understand that in order to be successful, it requires consistency. See, anybody can be good once. Anybody can do something good that one time. But too many people rest on that one time they did that one thing back in 2003 and they make a lifestyle out of it, right? And so I want to ask you guys this quote, see if you guys have heard this and what you think about it, right? The quote is, champions aren't made in the ring. They're merely recognized there. That's a Joe Frazier, he's a boxing guy quote. He says, champions aren't made in the ring. They are merely recognized there. What you guys think about that? Kyle, I see you nodding a little bit. What do you think, man?
Thinking about like Mike Tyson's training videos when he came out of retirement. Guy's an animal. The way he trains is reflected in the ring. He doesn't just show up, show out.
Yeah. I was talking to this. If you guys have kids that play travel softball or travel baseball, yeah. Okay, all right. I see Brittany does. I was talking to this mom. I don't even know how we got into this conversation, but we had brought up this quote. She said, well, I got one. She says, this is what we'd say in travel softball. It says, she said, trophies aren't earned at the tournament. That's just where you pick them up at. I was like, oh, I like that. Man, that's good right there. And I was like, that's softball mom. Come on, look at her. Trophies aren't earned at the tournament. That's just where you pick them up at. Come on, that's good. And all we're talking about is what you do behind the scenes. It's what you do when nobody's watching, right? I was at this conference one time and I was listening to this lady. She's the first female to swim the English Channel, right? And she was talking about the day she was swimming, how it was a little bit stormy or windy. It wasn't stormy, it was windy. And the waves are like really big. So she would go to take a stroke and the water would come in and it would go through her mouth and she'd swallow the water and she's like vomiting all this water. And she said there were jellyfish in the area. So it's the whole time she's getting stung by these jellyfish. And so she would vomit and get stung, hours of this. But on the day of, she had a boat with a video crew and there's also her team. So she could kind of hang on, but they couldn't propel her forward. And they would be there encouraging her. They had a helicopter above because it's a big deal, right? They were videoing this lady, very first lady. And there are these camera crews waiting on the other side. And as she finally crosses the finish line, or however you want to say it, this camera comes right up in her face. And she says, they say to her, that was amazing. That was incredible. That's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And she said, that wasn't amazing. There was nothing about that was amazing. Anybody could get out here and do that when there's camera crews. Anybody can get that when there's camera crews in your face and there's people cheering you on, and when the expectations are high, right? When the expectations are for you to perform. But what's amazing is when I was out here at 4 a.m. and there was nobody out here. It was pitch black dark. You couldn't see anything, and it was freezing cold. Like, that is amazing. I was like, wow, that's really good. I want to try to share my screen one more again here. I want to just show this. Let's see if technology can help me out here. And if it doesn't, Joseph, you my man. Joseph, help me out. We'll get some AI generated stuff helping me out. No. So when I first got into studying leadership, personal growth stuff, I came across this guy by the name of Jim Rohn, not the sports guy, but the motivational speaker guy. And he said that there's actually a formula to success. He said there's a formula for success and there's a formula for failure, right? He said the formula for success is a few simple disciplines practiced daily. Just a few simple disciplines practiced daily. But he said the formula for failure is just a few tiny errors in judgment repeated every day. That's interesting, right? The formula for success, a few simple disciplines practiced daily. Formula for failure is a few tiny errors in judgment repeated every day. What I found is success and failure typically aren't one giant leap or one giant fall. It's a process. It's over time. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he actually had a moral failure, right? He had a moral failure. He said something that was really interesting to me. He said, right here is where I fail, but right back here is where I began to fall. I said, wow, that's good, right? He said, back here, I started doing some things that nobody saw. I stopped doing some things that nobody saw, but I kept on, and eventually it came to light, right? It came to light. I fell right here, but I began to fall back here. The formula for success is a few simple disciplines practiced daily. Successful people do consistently what unsuccessful people do only occasionally. They do it consistently, day in and day out. See, the unsuccessful people, they'll do it occasionally. They do it sometimes, but they allow the emotion of the moment to determine if they take action on those things. Right? If you see anybody successful in any industry, in any field, it doesn't matter, right? They've made some kind of decision against themselves. If you look at somebody who's a successful business owner, a successful parent, a successful church leader, a successful, even The Rock, all right? Think about The Rock with his six-pack abs, right? He made decisions against himself. There was days, I'm sure, he did not feel like going to the gym. There were days he didn't feel like eating chicken, the grilled chicken over the fried stuff, right? He made a decision against himself. What's interesting, everybody likes this. They like the goal, right? They like the dream. They like the pats on the back. But most people don't like that. That part right there. Because they don't hand out trophies for that. People don't celebrate that right there. People don't high five you for that right there. But to go from here to here requires the disciplines. It requires doing that. It's the process. And so as we talk about the process today, I was thinking about back in high school, we had this guy, senior year in high school. He was a football player, basketball player, great athlete, but he was a senior year, my freshman year, and we called them B jackets. Y'all know those Letterman jackets I'm talking about? Some of you guys in high, okay. Well, he had all the patches, but he wanted a baseball patch. So he thought for his senior year, he'd go get him that baseball patch, right? And it was pretty obvious. He'd never played baseball before because he would get out there, and if we were in the middle of a rally and this guy comes up to the plate, he's going to ruin our inning. It's like catcher, catcher, go get your gear on. Everybody get your gloves because this dude's coming up to the plate. Y'all, this dude in one game, early to the middle part of the season, hit 3 home runs in one game. 3 home runs in one game. Dude was a superstar. Dude was a superstar in one game. The problem was he wasn't able to repeat that performance. He rarely got on base. He didn't hit another home run the rest of the year, but for that one game, he's a superstar. What separates the best in any area, in any industry, is consistently doing the right things. Because here's what. How many of you know you can also be consistent in doing the wrong things as well? Yeah, you can be consistent in doing the wrong things as well. So today, and when we get back next week, I'm really going to show you some tools of how do you figure out where should I be spending my time at, right? Like, because all activity does not equal accomplishment. Not all activity gives the same return on my time. It's the same for you, right? Not all activities give me the same return. And so how do I figure out what are those activities that give me the highest return? And so when we get back in a couple of weeks, I'm going to just show you a couple of tools that I've used that help me to determine that. If you've got some, I would love to hear what you got too, because I believe that's an area all of us could continue to improve in, is how do we maximize our time, right? But for today, we're talking about the most boring key to success. Most boring key to success. So as I was thinking about this, I want to share with you, John Maxwell's got this, he calls it the rule of 5, right? The rule of 5. And so his rule of 5 basically says, what are the 5 things that you can do day in and day out that will help you get to where you want to get to? 5 things, and 5 simple things that you can do day in and day out. Hey, Cory, what do you do on a random Monday? Well, I'll do these 5 things. Cory, what do you do on that vacation weekend? Well, I'll do these 5 things. What do you do on when you're out of town? Well, I'll do these 5 things. What are the 5 things that you can do day in and day out consistently? Here's what I found. They need to be simple to do, but things that are simple to do are also simple not to do, right? Because they're easy to do, which means that they're easy not to do, which means I probably think that they don't give me a high return, when in reality, they're the things that give me the highest return. And so I'm going to share with you John's rule of 5, his 5 things that he does. I'm going to share with you my 5, and these are just simply examples, right? So you know, you think about who John Maxwell is. He's an author, speaker, all that stuff. Think about what I do, and then how do you take those examples and make it your own, right? Like, because my 5 are based off of where I want to go in life and my values. You may not share the same values, and you may not want to go where I go in life, right? So you're thinking about what are your core values and where do you want to go in life, right? So here's John's 5. John says every day he reads. So he's consuming content. Every day he files. And what he means by files is whenever he comes across a cool quote or a good story, he's going to store that. So he files. So he reads, he files. Those are 2 of the things. Every day he thinks, so he makes time to think. Every day he asks questions. So he's trying to reflect and he's trying to learn, because experience is the greatest teacher. Evaluated experience is the greatest teacher. So I want to allow the lessons to catch up with me. How do I do that? I ask questions of myself and I ask questions of other people, right? Then every day he writes. Every day he's not only consuming content, he's creating content. And so for me, the 5 things that I do day in and day out, I start my day in prayer. That's what I do. I read, so I'm consuming content. I develop some kind of content. I reflect, and then I do some kind of exercise. Those are 5 things that I do, because those are things that bring me life. Those are things that help me to get to where I want to get to. Think about those, right? Super simple to do. I'm talking about reading. And when I say developing content, sometimes it's just coming up with a quote, writing something, you know? And so it doesn't have to be hard. And next week, or when we come back, I'm gonna show you what that actually looks like for me to what I do in all of that. But those are my 5. And so John likens this rule of 5 to chopping down a tree. This is what he says. It's kind of like chopping down a tree. He said, first off, you got to know which tree you're going to go to. Am I going to go to the oak tree? Am I going to go to the pine tree or the maple tree? Basically, that's where do you want to go? I got to know where I'm going, right? I don't know if you guys have heard that. Any of you guys have ever watched the Alice in Wonderland? Alice in Wonderland, she comes up to the, however you say it, Cass' name, and Cass says, where you want to go? And she says, well, I'm not quite sure. And basically he says, well, then it doesn't really matter where you go. You end up somewhere. I ruined basically what he said, but basically if you don't know where you're going to go, you're going to end up somewhere. Why not make it intentional? Where do you want to go? And so which tree are you going to cut down? And then number 2, you got to have the right tools. So if I'm going to go chop down that pine tree, I'm not going to take a baseball bat, right? That's not the right tool. I'm going to go take me an axe. And my tools, what I'm asking is, what are my gifts? What are my strengths? Do I have the right gift set to reach this destination? For example, I don't, most of you have not met me in person, but I'm a little short white dude, right? I'm about 5'5", all right? 5'6". I'm going to say 5'6". I'm going to round up. And let's say I wanted to make it in the NBA. Well, you know what? I'm a little short white dude who can't jump, but I can play some mad defense. And I don't think the NBA is looking for mad defense, right? So I probably don't have the skill set that's required to reach that goal, right? So I want to know where I'm going, and then I need to ask the question, do I have the right gifts? Do I have the right tool to help me get there? The third thing is I want to stay consistent. I'm going to take my axe and I'm going to take 5 cuts every day. 5 cuts, 5 cuts, 5 cuts. I want to take 5 cuts every day instead of all day. The challenge here is to find the 5 activities most essential to your success. It's better to do the right thing all days instead of all day. And what I mean by that is what we tend to do is to say, hey, that's where I'm going, and we get excited about it, right? We just get excited about it. And I'm going to go to that tree. I'm excited about cutting it down. I'm going to hit it 87 times today. And now I'm sore for 3 weeks, and I can't go back out there. And then after 3 weeks, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to hit it 32 times. And now I'm sore for another week, and I can't go back out there. And it's 5 cuts, 5 cuts, 5 cuts. If I miss tomorrow, I don't come back on Wednesday and try to make up for yesterday and do 10. I'm going to hit it 5 times. I'm going to make it 5 times, 5 times, 5 times, day in and day out. Then I'm going to stay focused. I don't know if any of you guys ever have this problem, but I call it SOS, shiny object syndrome. Shiny object syndrome. I'm going to go do that. Oh, no, that looks good. Oh, no, that looks good too. Right. And so you bounce, or I bounce. I don't know about you guys. I'm just speaking for myself. Okay. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. Oh, that's a great opportunity. Right. And so I want to stay focused on what I'm doing. Stay focused. No one ever quit their way to success, right? Nobody ever quit their way. And I promise you, you just keep hitting that tree, 5 cuts. And eventually what's going to happen? It's eventually going to cut down. It's going to eventually fall down. But what we tend to do, or I'm going to raise my hand, what I tend to do is I want to get there. And so it's kind of like planting the seed. I plant the seed, and because in 2 days it's not producing fruit, I dig the seed up and I go plant it over here. I give it a few more days, and because it's not producing fruit, I'll dig it up and I'll go plant it over here, right? I got to cultivate it. I got to keep on, right? It's called the process. It's called the process. I'll just share this, right? So there's a story about this dude. This is a Bible story, right? So some of you may or may not have heard it. It's all good if you have or have not. It doesn't matter. There's this guy. He's got this thing stirring in him. His name's Daniel. He knows he's built. He knows he's made to be on the world stage. Like, he feels greatness in him. A lot of you probably feel the same thing. You know this is in you. And he starts having this dream, but he's a little bit arrogant. And so he tells his family about this dream, and they say, oh, I don't like that. So they sell him into slavery. Basically, he goes into the prison, but eventually he gets in front of Pharaoh, and he does something so amazing in front of Pharaoh that they put him as number 2 in command of the world power at that time. But from the pit to the palace was this process. And we tend to like to skip the process because the process isn't fun. The process isn't fun, right? We want to microwave it, but it's a crock pot. It's really in that crock pot that you develop the tools, that you develop the character and the gifts, that once you get there, that you can stay there, right? All right, cool. All right, last one. Don't stop until you finish. Don't stop. So here's what I want you guys to do. Some of us that we've had our one-on-one conversations, we've talked about this. I want you to think about where you would love to be 6 months from now, right? So just kind of stir it into your mind. And 6 months is we're talking short like time frame, right? So basically what I'm asking is, in this season that you're currently in, where would you love to be at the end of this season? Where would you love to be in 6 months? And if you know what that is, I would like for you to write it down. If you don't have a pen or piece of paper, put it right here, right? Put it right here. Where would you love to be 6 months from now? And I just want you to think about that for a moment. As you've got that, or if you've got some kind of vague idea, what I would like for you to do is just kind of, I call it a mind dump, right? Mind dump, it means like you're not attached to what you put down on a piece of paper. You're just kind of creatively just dumping it all out. What are some things that you know you could do to help you get to where you want to get to, right? Like, what are some small things that you know you could do to help you get there? So if I want to be a speaker on the world stage, what are some things that I could do? Well, I could start creating content. I could consume content. I could start doing more videos. I could start capturing stories, right, of things that I think are funny or whatever. But for you, I mean, maybe I could get up earlier or whatever, right? But for you, what are some things that you know you could do that if you took action on it, it would help you get to where you wanted to get to? And you're not gonna have to share this with anybody, but I would like for you just to mind dump. What are some activities you could do? And I've got a challenge for you with that, or homework, however you want to say it. But challenge sounds more fun than homework. Yeah. Colin said, dude, I ain't doing homework. I quit that. No. So what are some things you know you could do day in and day out that if you started taking action on it, it would help you get to where you wanted to get to? All right. Here's my challenge to you, all right? Here's my challenge to you. I want to challenge you to do at least one of those things. So you got a list of things that you know you can do that would help you get to where you want to get to. I want to challenge you to do at least one of those things for 7 days in a row. Do at least one of them, right? For 7 days in a row. That's my challenge to you. And it's twofold purpose. There's twofold purpose. The first purpose is obvious. You said, if I do this, I can get that, right? And it's going to help you get a little closer to where you want to get to. But the ultimate, I think an even stronger reason. And so 7 days in a row, all right? I want to make that clear. In a row. If you miss a day, you get the opportunity to start all the way back over, right? So the goal is to do 7 days in a row. If you miss a day, start all the way back over. Here's the reason why. Is what you'll find is if you'll take me up on this challenge, you'll find the excuses that are holding you back in every area of life. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. The excuses that I use to hold me back from doing something super simple as this, the root of it is the same excuse I use that holds me back in every other area of life too. Here's what I found. I've done this multiple times. Actually, we did it with reading a book. I've done this multiple times, but we would read this chapter of a book for 14 days in a row. I've read this one chapter, I think is 70 something times. One chapter, 70 something times, right? What I found was I would start out good and I would end good. But the middle portion is like, it's a grind. I don't like it, right? I'm good on the bookends, but it's the middle portion. And what I found was on day 7 or 8, I would begin to kind of compromise, or I begin to make excuses. And so I get to about day 7 or 8 and I would get up and, well, you know what? This other thing is a little more important than this. I need to do this other thing first. And I do this other thing first. And then the kids get home. It's like, well, I need to play with the kids. I need to spend time with the kids. I'll do this when they go to bed. And then bedtime comes and you know what? I don't really feel like doing it now. I don't do my best work whenever I'm tired. And what I want you to hear is all those are legitimate excuses, right? I could justify all of those. I could justify every one of them. But in reality, that's not the question. The question is, why did I not do what I said I was going to do? Why did I not uphold my commitment? What was it that held me back, right? And that's what we want to discover is what are some of those excuses that I tell myself that hold me back? I want to become aware of those things. Once I become aware of it, now I can do something about it. As long as I'm not aware of it, I can't do anything about it. It's in the dark, right? I want to bring it to light. Once it's in the light, I can do something about it. Okay. Woo. Good stuff. I've talked a lot. So I would love to go around and hear at least something that stood out to you, maybe some questions that you guys have or thoughts on that. And as you're thinking about it again next week, we're going to take a pause. The week after that, what we're going to do is we're really going to look more at kind of that thought that you can also be consistent in doing the wrong things. So I've got about 3 tools that have helped me to figure out, where do I spend my time at? How should I spend my time, right? So let's just go around and Brother Adam, how about you kick us off? What about you? Biggest takeaway? There it is.
Well, I kind of like what you said about reaching a goal and using consistency as a tool to get there. I mean, it's a good idea to have repetition, consistency. If you don't have that, then you're just going to be all over the place trying to get there and not really going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. It's good stuff. Ariel, how about you?
I think with the formula you come up with, where you said you actually start to fail on like the flatline portion of the formula, and because you would think, you'd on the curve down, but it actually starts before then.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a gradual thing too, right? Yeah.
Right.
Mm. Good stuff. Colin, how about you, man?
Is one thing that I really struggle with. And it's just getting started. That's the hardest thing for me is to get started with anything consistently. That's just something I have to work on.
Mhm.
Looking forward to getting some tips and tricks on overcoming them.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I'm going to show you probably about 3 tools I use, but anybody else has got things that have worked for you, bring them to the table. I'd love to hear it. Because I mean, again, I seriously think that's an area we all could improve on, is how to maximize our time, right? Yeah. Natalie, how about you?
Funny enough, the hype video kind of stood out to me today.
Let's go.
So it was a line in the hype video, and this isn't an exact quote, but he mentioned that the process is not some big rah-rah speech. The process is quiet, keep consistent. And so that kind of stood out to me, that you don't have to sit there and boast and brag and make the process this huge ordeal. You can quietly do it. That way, I guess motivation starts from within. I don't have to sit there and show it until I'm ready, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Doesn't come, you just kind of come in and show up, right?
Because I feel like I have to prove it to myself first. Because I mean, I'm kind of like Colin, where like it's the getting started for me, and I don't want to be like, I'm gonna quit smoking, and then day 3 I'm smoking a pack again. And so I'm so famous for doing that with my addictive personality and stuff. And so it's all about instant gratification. And so I'm one of those that I'll get started, and then I just kind of like don't see any progress, and then I give up. And so it's one of those, I need to keep quiet, prove it to myself first, and then I can brag. Like I've quit smoking now for almost 5 or 6 years now. And so I finally did it, but it's just like, I can't really brag until I've gotten some time or something under my belt.
Come on, that's good. Let's go. I like it. Rarita, how about you?
Yeah, for me too, something with the video just stood out to me. It's that deeper the process, greater the reward. So I kind of like to get to the intricate detail of everything. I just don't like to do things just for the sake of doing it. I like to make everything like really perfect and all that. So it kind of just stood out to me, like a proper relation with things and structure and workflows.
Yeah. That's a powerful thought. The deeper the process, right? That's good. Joseph, how about you, man?
Consistency, I mean, it's the saying, consistency is key. If you can't do something twice, you don't know how to do it. If you can't do it over and over again, you can't make anything else better around it until you get the foundation the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. It's good stuff. Brittany, how about you?
So I'm a major quote person, and when you said you can't microwave success, it's a crock pot, and I just about want to get that tattooed, because that's really good. That's something that I'm a microwaver. I want results fast, and I've had to learn a lot here lately. Just it's all a process.
Yeah, doggone it. Right, doggone it. Yeah. But I think I think we know this. It's just frustrating, right? Like we want to get there, but we've seen what happens to the people who have microwaved the process, right? Like what I'm thinking about are the people who won the lottery overnight, or high profile athletes. One day they're millionaires, multimillionaires, and then 10 years later they're broke. Nobody's ever taught them, or they haven't gone through the process of how do you have the character to handle, how do you develop the disciplines and the habits to handle that, right? And so It's in the process that we develop that kind of stuff, character, the habits, the dexterity to be able to handle that. So, yep. Junior, how about you?
Well, one of the things that, consistency, that is, like I said earlier, that is the key. You can see that all over the place. I mean, you can, simple as a restaurant opening up, right? You have the restaurant that opens up like free tea, huge sandwiches. We're going to give you fries for free. We're going to, blah, blah, blah. However you start the process, that's how you must stay consistent, because that's what happens. I'll just use the restaurant as an example, that's how they always start. And then after, 2-3 months, it's like, oh, the sandwich is a little bit smaller. All of a sudden the sweet tea is not free anymore. And then they're charging you for the pack of ketchup, and then you see that in a couple of months later, that restaurant is closed down. So however you start the process, you must be consistent, and when we have people that are, that part of our team, that's one of the 5 things that I do every day. I always make sure to have a sort of a huddle with my kids, right? Like, what's your game plan? What's your goal? And again, another huddle whenever the day is over and done with. It's no different than, me doing that with the guys here at work. But I'm consistently doing that. Like, I always try to do that, in the days that, there's days you get up and it's you're kind of thrown off a little bit. Your crew, your team will hold you to that consistency. Like, there's times that we're running out of the house and my sons are like, so what, you don't really care what we're doing today? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, we didn't have our talk, so when you're consistent enough, even your own team will hold you accountable when you fall. That's what I'm saying. It might be the most boring thing of the process, but it is one of the vital parts of the process, or you might as well not start the process.
Yeah.
That's just how I see it.
He said, if you're going to quit on day 1, right?
That's it.
At least there you haven't had the hard work that gets us going into it. Quit on day 1. Yeah. No, that's good. I like it. Samantha, how about you?
One of my biggest takeaways today was the formula for success and failure. I'm one of those people who I know where I want to be in 6 months. I know where I want to be in a year. I know where I want to be in 5 years. But I tend to get bogged down and hung up on the big steps. I feel like if I'm not taking the huge leaps often enough, then I'm not doing anything. So my goal now is to slow down and focus on some of the simpler stuff and work consistently with that and see if that helps me get to those big steps, if I can celebrate the small things.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I like it. Celebrate that. Come on. Michael, what about you? Any thoughts today? Or Tyler, how about you?
Well, my advice would also be seeing, know where I want to be in 6 months to a year, however far, and just being able to take those steps and get there, and being able to not do some of the stuff you enjoy doing to be able to get where you want to be. You may miss going on vacation, to be where you want to be.
Yeah. Like it. Well, any other thoughts or kind of questions or anything like that today?
Oh, hey, we're not going to be here the 29th. We have this Memorial Day for Ethel Crane. Well, it's Memorial Day in general, but Ethel Crane's closed.
Yeah. Gotcha. Oop. Well, you guys, I guess, just kind of pick back up on the 5th, kind of take about a two-week hiatus and just kind of pick right back up. Yeah. That sound good to you guys? Okay. I'll put that in our calendar. right here. I'll actually do it right now before I forget. And then we will pick right back up on June the 5th there. Got him. Thank you for showing us that. So awesome. Well, y'all, I appreciate you. I hope today has added value to you. See you in about 3 weeks, I guess you would say, and we'll kind of recap this one. We'll look at some tools on how to maximize our time, how to be effective and efficient, right? Effective and efficient. So appreciate y'all. I hope you have an awesome rest of the day. And